Welcome back to the Jeremy Jones podcast. All right, let's get going here, right? So, we're still trying to work out a format here. I know a lot of podcasts have, you start this, you do this topic, you do that subject, you do that section, you do that section. I don't have that quite set up yet, so we're just kind of winging it. But this time, I actually did write a little outline, if you will. I want to make sure I get in everything. Normally, this is the part for corrections, but I was perfect last week, so no corrections. And by perfect, I mean nobody told me that I said something wrong, so I assume I was right about everything. Breaking news, somewhat breaking. It's we've known for a while who the new district attorney of the Lookout Mountain Judicial Circuit would be, and that is now official. In fact, hold on just a second. I want to, because the district attorney picks how he or she, in this case she, wants her name listed. So, she is listing her name. Kathleen V.P. Davis has been sworn in as the district attorney for the Lookout Mountain Judicial Circuit. That is Catoosa, Dade, Walker, and Chattooga counties. So, congratulations to her. I look forward to working with her. I'll just say one quick thing about that. I've known Miss Davis for, well, as long as I've been a lawyer. She was one of the first lawyers that I met when I was doing stuff because of the type of stuff I had to do when I first started as a lawyer. And I've always worked well with her. We've been on opposing sides. In fact, whenever we worked on cases, we were on opposing sides. She's great to work with, very fair. So I look forward to her bringing her temperament and that willingness to work with people to the district attorney's office. So welcome to our new district attorney. She was appointed by the governor, so I'm sure it is now time to start running for office. But anyway, congratulations to her. I look forward to working with her. Next, we have a brief announcement I want to talk about. Clancy. Clancy. Who is it? Clancy? Yeah, Clancy. So that trial's something. I'll be honest, folks. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know about it. This is when this was originally making the news. That was the time that I was preparing for trials in a different county. As it turned out, I didn't have any trials, but I still had a lot of cases to work, plea deals to negotiate, and get signed up, clients to meet and stuff. So anyway, but the way I found out about it was a lot of people were sending me messages. In fact, more than normal. It's not uncommon when a national trial, a trial makes national news. People, hey, what do you think about that? And I'm rarely short on opinions. But this one, I would say, if it's not the most, it's on up there of the most people requested wanting to know my opinion on it. So obviously there's something going on with it. I don't know the details of it yet, and I'm going to go into this 100% blind. I'm going to be about as blind as what lawyers would want their jurors to be. So what I did, today is day 16 is when I started watching it, day 16 of the trial. I watched most of today's hearings. The witness today was what's called the Cellbrite, the company that does phone extractions. He testified, and then a doctor testified. Then the day was cut short for whatever reason. But because it was cut short, I went back and started on day 1. And so my plan is to watch day 1 and at the same time keep up with what's going on during the day. So what I plan on doing is I'm going to do a little mini podcast. And I'm going to do 2, maybe 3 just updates per week about what I have seen and what my opinion is of what I have seen. The disadvantage of doing it the way that I'm going to do it is I might make a comment, something to the effect of, well, they really messed this up on this date today because this witness said that, and oh my gosh, they can't do that. And you already know that another witness has come on later to completely contradict that person or to verify that what that person said was right. So in that regards, I'll look kind of silly, but what else is new? But that's how I would have done it had I been on top of this at the beginning. So we're going to do it the same, and then hopefully I'll get caught up pretty soon, and it'll just be updates. So It will not be my regular podcast. I'm still going to do one per week podcast of local news and events and things that are going on, of whatever interests me. When the Clancy trial is over, that might just be the topic for anybody who doesn't want to pay attention to each of the updates. But I'm going to talk about what the lawyers have done. Apparently there's some controversy, celebration about what the defense attorney is doing. Some people are saying this is a dumb defense attorney. Some people are saying they're brilliant. I did finish his opening statement because I got to the first witness today. But anyway, I will keep up with it, and I will start making a podcast called the Clancy Update. So today, finally, after being bumped once and teased twice, we're going to talk about flock cameras. Flock cameras. Controversy everywhere. So much controversy. The flock camera companies, they're putting out press releases. They're putting out news press things. Besides the press releases, I think they're doing a little guerrilla warfare marketing campaign under the table. Channel 3 interviewed me the other day about flock cameras, about what's going on with them, and it's definitely a hot topic. So let's talk about them. What are they? What are they not? What are we going to do about them? We got people out there cutting them down and getting in trouble for it, or not getting in trouble for it, and let's talk about it. So first of all, what is a flock camera? A flock camera is a camera. It's mounted on poles, and they capture what's going on in their range. Most of the time it is roads. It's monitoring a particular thoroughfare, and it is recording 24/7. And it is not just a simple license plate readers. Those have existed for years. It's not a traffic camera where you go in to see what the traffic camera is. It is keeping up with it. But here's what's important about flock cameras that makes it different than anything else we've seen in the past with cameras on the roads. They are recording 24/7. That by itself is not new. Traffic cameras have done that. They are not just reading license plates. We've had that for a long time. That's happened. What these things are doing is they're using the advanced technology that we have today, the AI technology, but not even AI, just the sheer power of computing that we have today that we didn't have 5, 10, 15, certainly 20 years ago. So in the past, on the license plate readers, it would read license plate ABC 123. Then the next reader, it's 10 miles down the road, ABC 123. So they know that car went from this point to that point. And depending on the time of it, they could have gone somewhere else or not gone somewhere else. So it was a straight shot or not. That was logged. That was available. It still is available. But let's say that the car does not have a license plate. License plate reader cameras were useless. But now it's taking a picture of the white Toyota that has a dent on the hood. It knows it knows the white Toyota with the dent on the hood. Then the other camera captures a white Toyota with a dent on the hood. And it uses essentially some similar technology to facial recognition software. And it matches the cars, regardless of what the license plate says. One can change the license plate between two points, and that camera is still going to realize or put to a high probability, hey, this is probably the same car, even though the license plates are different. So that's certainly a huge jump in technology from just the license plate readers or just the security cameras that have existed. They can identify suspicious behavior in some regards. Now, in my research, I have found conflicting information about that. But if it doesn't do it now, it's not going to be far from being able to do it. License plate readers in the past have been set up if they were looking for, we'll use an Amber Alert, and they're looking for ABC 123. When ABC 123 went through the license plate reader, it would notify the police, hey, this one just went by. Obviously, these flock cameras can do that. But again, not only that, if the person they're looking for has changed the plate or disfigured it in some way, all the information about the car, the suspect's car, is put in there. So, and we've seen examples of this where it's not been good for police or for the flock cameras. But, they're looking for, again, I'll just keep using the white Toyota. They're looking for the white Toyota, and a white Toyota that has a lot of matching characteristics, as white Toyotas do, because every get into this century at least, every 2022 model of the Toyota Celica, if that even exists anymore, They all look the same. So it's going to capture a lot of them, and that's where humans have to get in. It's not the same. It is the same. But it's going to give it a high probability. And there have been instances, I read a story today where a woman was arrested, spent a week, I think, in jail or a couple days in jail because they believed that she was the suspect they were looking for. There has to be more to that story, but regardless, it's going to give you false positives in some cases. So that's what the flock cameras do that are different than just the regular license plate readers. And then the big one, the ability to archive this data, keep it for however long they want to keep it, and we'll get into what they've said in just a minute. And if the police or a nosy person wants to, or a nosy police officer, I guess, wants to go back and say, hey, where's my girlfriend been the past 3 weeks? Where's my ex-girlfriend been the past month? And track and find where that person has been, watch the video, see the reports. According to Flock in a news release, press release they did the other day, their prior retention policy was 30 days, and they're reducing it now that down to 7. Frankly, I don't care what the retention policy is. What I care about is what the exceptions are. Saying that I know I've said before, good lawyers know the law, great lawyers know the exceptions. The exceptions is where everything happens. So what that means is their retention policy might be 30 days or 7 days, but they have exceptions to it. And one of the exceptions might be if there's a murder at 123 Main Street, then every flock camera within a 3-mile radius of that address automatically archives that data for 2 months or until given a subpoena by the police or a court order to keep it for a longer period of time. So that sounds reasonable. We want to catch murderers. But what if the exception turns into a lower crime, aggravated assault? Okay, well, we probably want to catch those people too. Well, eventually, does it get all the way down to trespassing? Any police call? So now let's say you have the exception being any police call at 123 Main Street. We got to keep the flock camera data and video if it's happened within 10 miles radius of wherever a police car's been. Well, all of a sudden, now you have the exception swallowing up the rule, and it ends up being there is no 7-day retention policy. All of them are retained for an indefinite period of time. So I don't really care what their policy is for retention as it's stated. I care about what their exceptions are. And there are going to be exceptions, otherwise these things are useless. So that's the next thing. But let's go back in time. So the number one thing that people say, the people who are against the flock cameras, and I've said this too, I of course say more, so this isn't all I say, and a lot of people forget this. You're out in public, so therefore, this is what people who support the flock, the people who support flock cameras say. You're out in public, there is no expectation of privacy in public. You're in public, they can take your picture. True, 100% true. However, the difference is they're retaining it. So let's talk about the expectation of privacy and the history of it. What a lot of people don't know, for decades now, the phone companies have kept a log of every phone number that you've dialed and every phone number that is dialed into your number. The police do not have instant access to it, but they could. But the Supreme Court case went through back in the late 70s, I think. Maryland, I think was the name of it. But they, but because of that court order, and it's talking about no expectation of privacy because the person's dialing a number on their own, exposing it to the phone company. Well, Congress passed a law and said you can't look at these pen registries, Mr. and Mrs. Police Officer. You got to have a court order to go in and look at them. But the phone company still kept the data. So they still kept it for whatever period of time. And if the police ever wanted to find out, has this person been calling all these drug dealers? Has this person been calling all these known sex offenders? And they've used that to triangulate and to capture the bad guys. And is that an invasion of privacy? Well, I haven't heard a lot of people upset about it, so probably not. And then we get into cell phones. Cell phones, look, you talk about you don't want to be tracked. You have an expectation of privacy, but yet you're carrying around a portable GPS device, and, it's tracking you everywhere. And with the proper subpoena or court order, they can find out where you've been just by accessing your phone. So do you really have the expectation of privacy? And, I'd say probably not. But Congress can pass a law. There can be exceptions made. And as I said earlier, the exceptions are where it is. So let's look at some court cases. And the one that people who talk about getting rid of flock cameras, they quote the Carpenter case from the United States Supreme Court. And what that one says to get the ball rolling on it is they said this is a very narrow decision and only applies to this particular case. But the foundation upon which they found this is, in my opinion, absolutely going to apply to the flock cameras. And it talks about because the data is being housed and retained, and because police are now able to reconstruct a person's movement, having access to that, even though it's not the government who's keeping it, it's a third party, but allowing the government to have access to that absolutely is going to be some form of a search. And once it gets deemed to be some form of a search, now you have Fourth Amendment protections. So I think when a flock camera case gets to the Supreme Court, this Carpenter case is going to be the foundation to argue that you can't do it. But let's forget about the Supreme Court for a second. Let's just talk about what does the law say about flock cameras. And this is the argument that I've made since they've been talking about them. Georgia has a law, and as do most states. In Georgia, it's 16-5-90, stalking. And it says a person commits the offense of stalking when he or she follows, places under surveillance, or contacts another person at or about a place or places without the consent of the other person for the purpose of harassing and intimidating the other person. And then it goes on to talk about what the different definitions are. So now there is a huge caveat to that, and I'm not ignoring it overall, but I am setting it to the side for now. But under Georgia law, these flock cameras, by definition, fit the majority of the stalking statute. Now, it is missing a very important piece, and so therefore it's not stalking. But hear me out, because the cameras are absolutely putting somebody under surveillance, and the person absolutely does not give their consent to do it. And then the law says for the purpose of harassing or intimidating the other person. So that clearly is not the purpose of stalk. That's not their intent. And the law is written that the person has to have the intent of intimidating the person. It doesn't matter if I feel intimidated. If a person's following me around because they think I have the most beautiful car in the world, and they just want to look at my car all day long because they love my car so much, and they're driving around, it doesn't matter that I feel intimidated. I can't call the police, and that person's not going to get convicted of stalking, assuming everybody believes the facts as presented by the defendant. That was not the intent. The intent was not to intimidate me. The intent was to look at my pretty car. So that would not be stalking. Obviously, the flock cameras, their intent is to keep a log of everybody that's gone by, to know where everybody has been, and to aid in law enforcement, if you believe what they say. So it's not stalking as the way the law is written today, but it certainly has a lot of the same characteristics of it. So I think because you have so close to what stalking can be, that's when you get into applying these cases like Carpenter, and the other case is Jones. And in the Jones case that was decided in 2012, the government got a warrant to put a GPS device on the person's car, and the Supreme Court ruled that the GPS device attached to the vehicle to monitor the vehicle's movements constitutes a search under the Fourth Amendment. And once it constitutes a search under the Fourth Amendment, then the protections apply. Now we have to get not just a court order, but now you have to have probable cause. And that's a huge difference. So whenever I look at issues, I try to say, if I want to argue for this, what am I going to say? If I want to argue against it, what am I going to say? So I look at both sides. What a novel concept, I know. And if one wants to argue for the flock cameras, if we're going to have them, because there's no doubt they can do good. They absolutely can do good, and anybody who says they can't, they're wrong. The question is, does the good outweigh the bad? And that's what's up for debate. So if we're going to decide that, you know what, we do want to find the missing children, we do want to find where the murderer drove off to, we do want to find whatever. What's the access point? How are we going to get to this data? When can police look at it? And right now, what I talked about earlier, the pen register, it falls under that they have to have a court order. So that's just an investigation. That's just saying that, hey, we think Fred might be selling drugs and we want to monitor where he's been going. Well, I'll go back to the pen register. We think Fred's selling drugs. We want to check his phone calls and see if he's been calling people that we know buy drugs or who sell a whole lot of drugs. Court says, yeah, that's a good idea. Sign it off and go off. It's not probable cause, but it allows the officers to look at who Fred's been calling through the pen register. If the flock cameras, because they're so intrusive and because they reveal so much private information about somebody, if I'm going to, and this is a big if, but if I'm going to accept them in our society, I want the requirement to be the police must get a warrant, a probable cause warrant to go in and look and see where a citizen has been, what they have, where a person has been, what they have done, where they have gone, what time, what's their habits. It's going to have to be a warrant requirement. Anything less than a warrant requirement to me is absolutely invasion of privacy. And again, you can yell till the cows come home that, well, you're out in public, so it's not private. Yes, that's true. But if you're out in public and you notice a police officer following every single move you made for 2 and 3 days at a time, you would 100% alter your habits. Now, if you're one of these people, I ain't got nothing to hide, so I don't care, maybe you won't alter it a lot, but you'll alter it. Maybe instead of 46 miles per hour, you only stay at 45 in that 45 mile an hour zone. I don't know. But just because they're not physically following you in the car does not mean they're not following you. Just because they have to take one more step to retrieve all of your data does not mean it's not a violation of your privacy. So it's not, you can't separate everything and only take one part of it. You're out in public. Therefore, it's okay. You have to look at the entire system. And it's not just you're out in public. It's you're out in public and they follow you everywhere. Everywhere. And when you look at these maps, DFLOC, I think it's dflock.org. Let me get the exact site. I should have had that up. But when DEFLOCK.org, dflock.org, you look at that and it shows you where all of the flock cameras are. And they are everywhere now. I mean, that big bright spot right there, that's the greater Atlanta area. You can't go anywhere in Atlanta without every one of your movements being tracked. And I don't care about this. If you have nothing to hide, what does it matter? Okay, if you have nothing to hide, just let the investigators come sit in your house all the time. Let them come by when you're out for the day, and they can just go through your house, go through your papers, look at everything you've been buying. I mean, you know, I don't care if you're the type of person that doesn't care about that. If you have any semblance of a brain, you know that that's a violation of privacy. You know that's stepping over the line of what this country's about what our founders fought for, and what the majority of Americans, or a large number of Americans, do not want to happen. That's not what we consider freedom. That's not for a person to be secure in their papers. That's not what that was not contemplated by the Fourth Amendment. We absolutely have an expectation of privacy, and these flock cameras have got to be put under some type of serious control, and access has to be limited to, at the very minimum, probable cause. Now, people are going to say, well, why have them at all? You know, people are going to abuse it. You're going to have officers. Look at all the officers who have been in trouble. So, you know what? That's true with absolutely everything, every type of technology, every type of surveillance that's out there. So, I'm not I'm not going to advocate that we get rid of an advancement in technology because there are people out there who abuse it. We address the abuse. And, if you're the type of person who says, because these officers are abusing it, we should therefore get rid of it, then you can't be also the same type of person who ignores the argument, because people are killing other people with guns, let's just get rid of guns. Well, but the guns are protected. Yeah, they are. Your privacy is protected as well. That's how it gets done, is through legislative action, through court orders, and through society punishing people who break the laws and break the rules. So I'm not going to be one who's going to argue against the flock cameras, because they absolutely do good. And as I said, I believe Flock is out there doing guerrilla marketing campaign about highlighting the kidnappers that they've caught, the murderers that they've caught, or whoever else. And they're going to keep putting these press releases out to remind people that, yeah, we're catching these officers who are abusing it, but look at all the good things that we're doing with it. There was an officer, I forget which state, but he had a conniption because somebody cut down the flock camera that was by a park. And he went on to social media and said, I hope you're happy. And what he said, and look, I'm going to take him at his word, all right? I do that whenever an official talks, and I know that some of them lie. And if he was lying, then he was lying, and we'll fix it later. If he misunderstood how it was set up, then that's he needs to be educated. But I do know that the flock cameras can do what he described. What he said that particular camera was for is it was not one that constantly recorded. It had a tripping mechanism in it. And what that meant is they had a list of all the sex offenders in the car that they drove. And as an attorney, a defense attorney, I can tell you, when you go and register as a sex offender in the local sheriff's department, you have to put what kind of car you have, the color, the make, the model, and the license plate. All of that can be uploaded, and it can be uploaded by any parameters you want. Everybody registered in our county, everybody registered in our state, everybody registered in our state and surrounding states, or even the whole country. And what he said that camera was doing at that park was it was only monitoring if a sex offender car came through the park. And if it did, it then tripped, and it recorded then, and it notified the local police, hey, this sex offender just came to the park. And the police would go out and get it. Now, that's clearly a good use of it. And this is coming from somebody, I disagree with the sex list. I don't think we should have it. If people are that dangerous, keep them in jail. That's a different topic. The point is, you can set these parameters on the flock cameras. Now, people are ignorant and stupid and vengeful. And so when you have those three things combined, they just see a flock camera. They assume it's the kind of flock camera that everybody hates, so they go cut it down and cause all kinds of damage. So that's not the solution to this. The solution is to get rules that are in place that protect our privacy and are within the constitutional limits, and then, of course, enforce. And I'm happy to see the officers are getting in trouble for those who are misusing it. The problem is, probably a lot of police departments do not have written policies about how that can be used, when it can be used, and more importantly, when it cannot be used. So we have these people who have been caught because they went against the rules that were in place by that department. What about the departments that don't have rules yet? So I'm not going to advocate that we get rid of flock cameras, but I'm absolutely going to demand that our legislatures, state, and maybe federal, but definitely state, put in parameters and put in rules about when they can be accessed, who can access them, and what is the punishment for unauthorized access. And that needs to be acceptable to the public. So that's what we have on flock cameras. That's it. So, I was hoping that my podcast could be about 30 minutes. And so far, I haven't met that. 29 minutes and something seconds right now, and I still have to do editing, and I always find stuff I got to take out. So, with that said, I think I'm going to close it up right now and wish everybody a happy week, a happy weekend. And I am going to catch up on the Clancy trial. I will upload some Clancy podcast as we go. Hopefully I have 2, maybe 3 by this time next week, just the Clancy. So tune back in for that. It'll be under its own playlist. So it'll be called the Clancy podcast or something. I don't know what it'll be called. But thanks everybody for reaching out. Thanks for watching. I think I'm getting up enough that now I'm going to start asking you to start doing the like and subscribe thing that everybody says to do. I think I need 10 episodes before I can put this on other podcast platforms other than YouTube, but we're getting there, and everybody keep watching, and it's certainly encouraging, and I'm humbled that you do so. Have a good day, everybody.